So
But
I
I,
was talking to this comedian that went to a comedy show. Like I've never been to one, stand-up comedian, and he
first
was
time.
telling me, yeah, he was.
Okay.
I was after the show. I asked him like, how do you like get used to being in front of a crowd and doing what you do? Because it seems to me like you've got to be fully committed. Like the show will not work if you're not like 110% committed to whatever role or bit you're doing. And he's like, just go to every single open mic you can. Like just it's all exposure therapy. There's no secret. There's no like
So it's just practice.
it's just practice.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. I've been playing the guitar, as you know, and I just started a few months ago. And in the app that I have, it said that it's better to practice for just a short period of time every single day than it is an hour once a week. And because you're just getting back into that routine for a few minutes and it's programming that brain over and over and over and over. And that repetitive motion of doing something so many times helps so much more than doing it once really big and intense.
Well, it's crazy to me that like we still have all of the bad science about brains from like the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And I mean, there is a lot more of modern neuroscience out, but people like when I was in school, they taught that after 20, your brain stops changing, like, and then it just degrades. Like you don't build new synaptic connections,
Right.
and we know that's complete bunk, but that's what they taught for decades.
Yeah.
And so that goes right along with like li- that consistency every single day is way more powerful at building those connections than yeah. So 2 hours of practice once a week is less beneficial than 15 minutes of practice every single day.
100%. Yeah,
And
I was talking to someone and they said you want to be careful when you go to a medical professional because if they've been practicing for 20, 30 years, the information that they're probably practicing on, and this was a professor at a medical school. He said the medicine they're practicing on, they learned back when they were in school. And the material they learned in school was probably at least 10 years old then. So the medicine that doctor is practicing was 10 years out of date when he learned it 20 or 30 years ago. So that practice of medicine may be based on principles from 40 years before. And how insane is that?
I mean, I know they have continuing education credits, but I think you're right. Like once they ingrain like a particular methodology and they find something that works, they tend to just get in a rut and continue on with it because that's what people
Yeah.
are used to.
Yeah, and business owners are every much the same way. Like it's not unique to medical doctors
Right.
that they're going to learn something and just cling on to it for the next 30, 40 years and not adapt and not shift.
Yeah. Like I spoke with a gentleman recently that he's 69. He's in good health. He's got a successful small business, been operating it for decades. He has no no transition plan, no
Oh,
sales
wow.
plan, nothing. Like he's just like he hasn't wanted to think about it because it's not normal for him. Like he has an established system of things that he does, and that's the end of it. So like having to switch and be like, okay, well, what legacy do I want to leave behind? How do I want to plan the next 30 years? And really forcing himself to engage with that is so outside of the norm that it's challenging, even though age is obviously staring him in the face.
Right. And one of the cool things is just like we get programmed to follow that same basic routine every single day, and that routine builds what our life becomes and who we become and what we accomplish, we can build into that routine something new every single day so that we're forcing ourselves into those uncomfortable positions over and over and over until us shifting and adapting becomes the norm instead of us being calcified in a certain position. And 20 years later, we're trying to move and we're like, oh, no, nothing's shifting. I've done the same routine for 20 years.
Yeah, well, I think what you said there is really critical for so many to understand, is that putting yourself into that place of discomfort, and where we're wired to avoid any kind of stress, naturally. But we have, if we really want to be successful and we want to be able to grow and change and adapt, we have to become comfortable with the discomfort. That has to become normal to us, and to the point to where we don't notice it at the same level. But then we push the discomfort to a whole nother level, so we can continue to accelerate the rate at which we grow and learn and create value. Because that's, I mean, as entrepreneurs, that's what we do. And I think it's really sad to see so many entrepreneurs that get stuck in that rut, where the comfort becomes the constraint. It's the thing that holds them down. They're not, like, they have something that's working at a level, but it's not really where they want to be. It's not really their dream life, but it's comfortable enough that they settle and just coast along.
Yeah. And the fun part is getting into that habit of learning new things and acting in different ways and shifting who we are doesn't have to be solely limited to the business. And looking back, there are periods of my life where things were really creative and I'm branching out into whole new areas. And then there were others where I really retracted. And I remember several years ago, you asked me, so what is it that you're like, where's your go-to learn from spots right now? And I was like, what a stupid question. I already know how to do my job. I was like, this guy's an idiot. What's he asking me a dumb question like that for? And then I thought about it a little bit more. I was like, hmm, essentially, my statement means that I know everything I should know about life. Dadgum, I'm the idiot. And it caused this whole shift. In fact, I just got here. Check this out. What? This just came in the mail.
Oh, wow. Looks like you got some giveaways.
Oh, no. That is 10 books out of I think 15 book series. And they're out of print. They were a limited edition. The 10 books that I bought are the only ones that are available on the market. So I'm watching to get the rest of the books in the series because they sold out of the other ones. Not related to business necessarily, but just a subject matter that I'm interested in. And that having those books right there gives me a really easy opportunity. Anytime I've got just 2 minutes, 3 minutes, I can grab one of those books, open it up and start reading. But if I hadn't taken the step to buy the books, it would still be a dream and a wish. And the crazy part is, I wanted to buy the books. When was it? In November. I first became aware of the series and I wanted to buy them then, but it took me clear until now, how many months later, that I didn't before I took that initial action. But at least I took it.
You got there eventually. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, I'm actually kind of floored where you bring up these conversations we've had that I don't even remember having with you at all.
Hmm. Well, I guess maybe you just tried to purge everything from the past or something. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
maybe.
that Jason.
But no, that's I think thinking back on that, that is a powerful question. It's something that I've been able to do naturally, is this have this natural level of learning. To me, it's not stressful to learn new things. It's something that I look forward to. It's something that brings meaning to my life. But as you recognize, it isn't that way for everybody. And because we all have different skill sets, we all have, like, these unique abilities and personalities that allow us to contribute to the world in meaningful ways. I mean, if everybody was the same, then there would be no dynamism. It would be like life would be very boring, and we would probably be in a lot of suffering because we wouldn't be able to leverage unique talents to build a better quality of life.
Absolutely. Yeah, when I was going to school, I went to Boise State for a while and then transferred over to BYU, Idaho. And when I got over there, I became friends with some of the professors and some of the staff, what have you, and they were talking about at one point they had switched from being a 2-year college that was called Rick's, and they shifted to becoming a 4-year university. And massive upheaval and shift when all of that happened. And one of the things that they told me was somebody, I don't know who it was, but somebody went out and bought mountains of copies of Who Moved My Cheese and handed them out to everyone that worked for the university or the college at the time because they wanted people to get this idea it's okay for change to happen. But there was a lot of people who were scared because change was being forced on them instead of them reaching out to discover what the change could be. And I think that's when people feel the pain is when the change is coming at them instead of them being the one that's actively chasing. It's kind of that same concept of when you're a zebra and you're getting chased, it's not a very fun experience. But if you're the creature chasing the zebra, you're having the time of your life.
Well, until you get kicked in the face, but yeah, I mean, it's much rather be the predator than the prey
Right?
in in nearly every situation. So, and I think I think there's a lesson there that if you're not the predator, then by definition you're the prey.
Right.
And I think
And that's why
yeah,
so many people struggle with this concept is they get so stuck in their routine that a little change comes along and bumps them like this, and they're like, "Whoa, what's going on?" Whereas you naturally have this idea that you just want to continue to grow and adapt and shift and learn and develop. And so you expect those pivots to come because you're a body in motion.
yeah, yeah, it's if you're man, just the concept here that there's that it is a reason why like I've known because we all go through the ups and downs. Like when I've been more stagnant, I feel like I'm just being acted on. Like they're like everything is happening to me. Um, instead of me being the one to bring the future that I want into the present. And you know, because I stopped leading my own life, and I'm not seeking for that. Because whereas if I when I'm leading my life, when I'm when I know what the future is, and I'm working to bring it into the present, every one of those speed bumps or nudges or things that happen, they just become opportunities to push on, to pivot from, to move, to be able to move closer to my goal. They're traction to get where I want to go, not obstacles.
Hmm, right.
And it becomes a they become challenges instead of a problem. And that's where like the language that we use is something that I've learned is super powerful for the way that we perceive the world because as we talked before, like we create our own reality through our perceptions. I mean, two people can experience the exact same event, but the story that one tells about the event is empowering and moves them forward, and the story that the other person tells about the event makes them feel like they're being crushed by a mountain.
Totally. Yeah, when I was a teenager, I had the opportunity to go listen. One of one of my scout leaders was a major donor to Boise State, especially their football department. And so he could pick up the phone and get an appointment anytime he wanted. And he got one with the head coach. And I'm trying to remember which coach it was. I think it was it Coach Pete, maybe? Anyway, he brings us into the room. There's like 10 of us in this room, and the head coach is talking to all of us. And he says, I don't care about the talent as much as I care about the mindset. And here's the mindset that the students need to have that are going to come play football on my team. And if they show any glimmer of these, then I know we can further develop it. So they don't have to be experts. But one of the things he said is adversity is a springboard to success. And he explained that concept of the springboard when you jump, you only get so much leverage out of it. But when you jump off from the back of adversity, it compresses like a spring, and that adversity then leverages and shoots you way up higher than you could ever get if you're jumping on your own. So rather than seeing adversity as something that's holding you back, see it as that thing that's going to propel you where you want to get to. And that was one of those moments I was like, that really is a huge mindset shift for me as a 16-year-old kid, that all of the problems in life aren't problems. They're the thing that's going to help me level up to that next level.
Yeah, that language is super important. Another thing that I've gotten actually relatively recently is, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to really share it, but in a way that, because I'm still processing it, but it's this idea that my intentions are enough. My
Hmm.
intentions towards what I want to create, my intentions towards other people. Um, my I don't have to worry about judgment. I don't have to worry about being cringe, as is often said now. I don't have to, I like none of that negative self voice that we all experience matters if I focus on the intention of what I'm trying to bring and create in the world.
Hmm.
And that's been, it's just like we can only focus on so many things at once. And so like you can focus on that negative self-talk. Like you like, I'm going to go do this thing. And then right before you start, you get like, why would you do that? It's a waste of time. It's, it's not worth it. And, but if you focus on your intentions, what you're trying to create, then it doesn't leave as much space for that. You can look at those thoughts and be like, thank you, not needed.
So
And
essentially, you're saying before you take the action, don't worry about the negative, just worry about your intention of what you're trying to accomplish, and thank the negative for showing up, and then send it packing.
yeah, it's just, yeah,
So
just
okay,
thank you,
so
not needed.
you're not
Focus on
talking
the
about the
intention.
feedback after or during the event.
No,
Okay, got it.
no, it's just like the intention. Well, I mean, it could be during the event, but it's really just like in order to be able to take that first step, which is like with your books, that's the hardest thing. It's like I want to do this, but like is it worth it? I'm actually gonna be able to read these 15 books. Like why would I? Like I'm sure you had some of those thoughts. Like, is it going to be a waste of my time?
Yeah, am I
Um,
wasting a bunch of money? Am I ever gonna read it? Will it take too much time? It's not my main point of subject that I'm studying right now, so is this a distraction? Is it beneficial? Ton of questions that are going through the mind.
and if you dwell on those instead of being like thank you, not needed, you will be like, okay, well, I'm actually that was a dumb idea. I'm not going to do that anymore.
Mm.
And when that happens to entrepreneurs, like the world is poorer.
But at the same time, that that doubt brings up some of the potential things that you do need to check against. For example, if I'm planning to release a new product or service to the market and I don't bother to check whether that product and service is needed by anyone, and I just bring it to market, I could have wasted 10 times the effort by not just picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, if I offered this, would you be interested?" And so
Right.
that questioning would maybe shortcut me going and sourcing the products, coming up with the offer, developing all of the steps. Hmm,
It could have
interesting.
taken to exclusion, but
Yeah.
it doesn't like focusing on the intention of what you want to build and create doesn't mean that you don't use you're not rational, that you don't use logic, that you don't study and explore and figure out how to actually make that happen. But
Mhm.
what it does mean is that when you hit those roadblocks that are really self-imposed, they're not something that comes from reality, from physics. They're the stories that we tell ourselves that keep us from stepping into the discomfort. Stories we tell
Sure.
ourselves from being willing to accept a small amount of pain in order to be able to move the future into the present.
Ah,
And that's where the intentions and focusing on the intention for me has been very, very helpful. It's like I know the impact that I want to have. I know what I intend to create through Grazora. I know how I want to help people and who I want to help. And so whatever struggles I feel along the way, like, when I get that voice, like, why are we doing this? Like, this, it's not going to work. Nobody's going to care. No one's going to pay attention. And it's like, no, thank you, not needed. Like,
Hmm.
I can, like, I know I'm not, we're not doing this, blinders on. We're paying attention to the effect of the steps that we take and adjusting accordingly as we continue on this journey and learn how to do it. But that intention keeps the arbitrary limiting thoughts at bay,
Got it.
because it's a better focus. So maybe maybe that's done it, as far as explaining how powerful intentions can be.
Yeah, that reminds me a lot of what I heard. Tony Robbins has one of his key lectures or presentations that he gives, and in it he talks about this idea of people will give up. And when he questioned people about giving up, they'd be like, "I tried everything." And his response, "Really? Everything? No, it was probably 1,000 tries." "Really? 1,000?" And he keeps questioning and questioning until he finally gets down to, "Well, I tried it once or twice and it didn't go quite like I planned, so I just gave up." And he's like, "No, that's the wrong thing. You don't give up. You set your vision, you cast it out there, you remain true to what you're going to accomplish, but when you are progressing along that journey and you find that you're heading in the wrong direction, you change your approach. You change your approach. You change your approach. But you never stop going after the goal. So you can't listen to that the self-doubting talk that says the goal's not worth it. But what you listen to is the feedback that comes in that says, "Oh,
Mhm.
that didn't take me where I want to go. I have to adjust. I have to adjust. I have to adjust." Which goes back to what we were talking about earlier of we have to have this flexibility that when things aren't going according to plan, or if we're trying to learn something new, that we're willing to adapt and shift and learn and grow and change. I think that ties what I heard you saying really nicely back with this central concept.
Yeah. Another thing that I wanted to bring up, that an idea that you sparked from earlier was this idea of learning and growing and being able to pull different things in. So for years, I had my business that I was focused on, and I let my health slip.
Mm,
I let my family slip. I let so many things slip. I didn't really have any hobbies that were truly exciting and challenging. And when my boys got old enough to where it was like, hey, maybe we should get some dirt bikes, and we got a dirt bike, and I was like, I'm just going to ride it around with them, try and teach them how to ride. Not that I'm a great rider, but and I got to where, like, wow, this is actually really fun. And
mm,
so then we got more dirt bikes, and now we started dirt bike, um, as a family, and I have looked at the expansion of the mind that I experienced from dirt biking, and how that brings more energy into the work that I do, trying to, with business and trying to help entrepreneurs and grow my own companies. And so that, like, having that dynamic of being able to do those things is really, really helpful, when it's I think when it's done correctly. Obviously, things like that can be taken overboard, but from scuba diving, dirt biking, water skiing, the various different things that we like to engage in, it they bring more clarity, because I actually don't even know why. They just help. Like, when you get back to work, like, the work has more quality behind it. There's more energy in it.
yeah, we're rejuvenated as individuals. And I think that same concept, if if I go kind of in a religious zone, there was a guy who was giving a presentation, and he said that he was going to medical school, and he made it a rule in the ground that he wouldn't violate, that he wasn't going to do any medical school stuff on Sunday. He was giving himself that day to completely distance himself from anything medical school related. He didn't think that was wisdom, because the advisors told him you're going to be studying 7 days a week. You're going to be in the labs every day. Every moment you're awake, you need to be focusing on med school. And he's like, no, I'm gonna try and trust God and keep one day apart from med school. And he said by the 4th year that he was in med school, most of his classmates had reached complete burnout. And he said they couldn't handle going to class anymore. They couldn't handle going to labs anymore. And he's looking around and he's like, I don't think he was like the best student in this class or it came easier for him. But he said because he realized later on, because he took that day off and he was doing stuff completely unrelated to med school, and a lot of it was either church related, family related, or sleeping, and he was letting his body have a break from that grind, it let him rejuvenate every week. And so he'd go back with vigor when he was going back to school and study, whereas everyone else never got a break, never had a chance away. And so they were just worn down by that continual grind.
Yeah, it's something that I've known happen to me in business is getting worn down by that grind and approaching like a line is like, I just don't feel like I have any more to give. Like no, it's not getting me what I want, and so one more unit of effort only produces 10% of the result that you would normally expect, because you just don't have it in you. You don't feel it anymore because you haven't kept your horizon broadening. And I think that's where, again, it comes in seasons and cycles, but we need to use those dips as springboards to make sure that we install better systems, better habits, so that we can, as we cycle, we're cycling in a trajectory that we want to go, as opposed to a negative spiral.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's amazing taking these little principles and applying them intentionally into our life. It's this little shift, like 1% change here, 2% change here, maybe a big one that's 10% change. But over the course of a lifetime, it leads us in a totally different direction than we'd ever end up without having these intentional shifts and moments that we take to change who we are a little bit.
Well, yeah, it's like I was going back to the very beginning of when we started chatting. I was talking to another different entrepreneur recently, and they were having a lot of trouble implementing a new system in their business, trying to get their people on board with it. And they were putting in they're putting a tremendous amount of effort towards it and trying to get people to change like on a dime.
Mm.
And I stepped back, and what came to mind at the time was we overestimate as humans what we can accomplish in a week, a day, a week, but we underestimate what can be accomplished in a year of consistent effort. You know, those small things compound way more than we realize, because for whatever reason we cannot easily calculate the effect of that compounding of small tasks done on a daily basis. So for example, I think I was asking you, I don't remember exactly what the question was that I asked you, but the response you gave was that you just write things down. You just take the time to write down the ideas, and then you move on and get back to what you're doing, so that the whatever little inspiration you were feeling isn't bogging down what you're focused on for the moment, and you can go back to it and grab it later. And little things like that, where you're collecting those things, like, yeah, writing that down doesn't do anything by itself, but you do that often enough over a long enough period of time, and those ideas and the ability to gain that kind of inspiration compounds into something that you couldn't even imagine happening when you give it a long enough time horizon.
100%. And we are out of time.
Thanks.
See ya.